Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that if you're returning. How you doing? What we're going to be talking about today are quite a few things. The first thing is my good friend sent in an email and she lives in the UK. And there's some very interesting things that I think that you guys should be aware of. Okay. She said, I may or may not have to split this up in a couple of emails because, as usual, there's way too much stuff going on here. But I'll try to give you the general gist, and we'll see how we go. Last time I emailed you, I told you about the UK Online Safety Act and lawsuits with Apple and Wikipedia. After that, the UK had withdrawn its controversial demand for a backdoor in an Apple data protection system. And I must admit, I don't know if anything further has happened with this, but if I see anything, I'll let you know. Also, around this time, a lawsuit started with a U.S. company called 4chan. I've never heard of this company until now, but it's supposed to be some sort of message board. However, those of you based in the U.S. will probably know of this website. Yes, very aware of it. Ofcom, which is the UK's media regulator, decided to impose a £20,000 fine with daily penalties thereafter for as long as a site fails to comply with its request. Ofcom began investigating 4chan over whether it was complying with its obligations under the UK's Online Safety Act. In August, it said it had issued 4chan with a provisional notice of contravention for failing to comply with 2 requests for information. Ofcom said its investigation would examine whether the message board was complying with the act, including requirements to protect its users from illegal content. Law firm Burn and Storm, who are representing 4chan, issued a statement on X saying 4chan wouldn't pay the proposed fine by Ofcom, and 4chan was a company incorporated in the U.S. and therefore protected against the UK law. American businesses do not surrender their First Amendment rights because a foreign bureaucrat sends them an email, they wrote. Under settled principles of U.S. law, American courts will not enforce foreign penal fines or censorship codes. If 4chan does successfully fight the fine in U.S. courts, Ofcom may have other options. It can even ask that ISPs be ordered to block UK access. The UK government and their media regulator are hugely embarrassing themselves with this online safety crap. UK laws have absolutely no jurisdiction whatsoever in other countries. UK law does not apply in the US, just the same as US law does not apply over here. So the UK government needs to sod off and do one with their bullshit. If they're allowed to do this, then it opens up the floodgates for them to interfere worldwide with this so-called online safety, and that's all I'm going to say. I agree with you. You know, that's like our president going over there and saying, well, you know, you're not doing what we're telling you. You know, you're not enforcing our laws over there, you know, in England. So now we're going to fine you. You know, it's not how that shit works. She said about a month ago, asylum seekers were said to be removed from an Essex hotel after a council was granted a temporary high court injunction blocking them from being housed there. Epping Forest District Council had asked a judge to issue an interim injunction stopping migrants from being accommodated at the Bell Hotel in Epping. And Epping is E-P-P-I-N-G. The injunction sought by the council meant that the hotel's owner, Somani Hotels Limited, would have to stop housing asylum seekers there within 14 days. The hotel has been at the center of a series of protests in recent weeks after an asylum seeker who is staying there was charged with essaying a 14-year-old girl. I'll tell you more about this further in the email, or in another email, she said. In a ruling, Mr. Justice Irie granted the temporary injunction, but extended the time limit by which the hotel must stop housing asylum seekers to September 12th. He also refused to give Somani Hotels the green light to challenge his ruling, but the company could still ask the Court of Appeal for the go-ahead to appeal against the judgment. However, there was a successful court appeal challenge by the Home Office and the hotel's owners, which overturned the High Court ruling. Wow. Councillor Chris Whitbread, leader of the EFDC, said, "We believe the Court of Appeal decision to overturn the interim injunction for the closure of the Bell Hotel was wrong. However, this is not the end of the matter. We consider we have a strong case for a final injunction. The final injunction hearing is expected to be heard sometime in October." This prompted another UK council to try seeking similar action. Broxbourne Borough Council have issued a clarification statement on their website after protests at their office on Friday, September 12th. The council would like to make it clear that it did not give permission for the hotel to be used for the accommodation of asylum seekers. The current use of the hotel was put in place by the Home Office, which made the arrangements directly with the owners of the Delta Marriott Hotel, despite the council's opposition at the time. The council has made its views on asylum seekers being housed at the Delta Marriott Hotel very clear, maintaining that it should not be used for this purpose, as this is not in accordance with the original planning permission and puts significant strain on local services. The council recognizes the impact that this is having on the local community and remains committed to taking enforcement action to bring the current use of the hotel to an end as soon as possible. About a month ago, Portsmouth City Council were furious to discover hundreds of asylum seekers were shipped into its city despite telling the Home Office it could not take anymore. And Portsmouth City Council found that 55 private rental properties were being used to house a minimum of 3 asylum seekers each. The migrants have been staying in homes of multiple occupation, or HMO, she said, not council housing. And Portsmouth City Council said it was now back to the Bell Hotel in Epping Forest. As I mentioned earlier, a migrant staying at this hotel essayed a 14-year-old schoolgirl. So, of course, there were a lot of protests outside this hotel and across Essex, which lasted a few weeks. The 23rd of September, the Ethiopian national has been jailed for 12 months. He was also convicted of essaying a woman, and he had only arrived in the UK on a small boat just days before these incidents took place and was described as manipulative and with a poor regard for women after being found guilty of 5 offenses. Which, oh my God. The 38-year-old told 2 teenagers he wanted to have a baby with each of them. What the hell? And attempted to kiss them before going on to put his hand on one of the girl's thighs and stroke her hair. His trial was that's gross. During his sentencing hearing, the court heard that Hadish Kebitu was aware of the unrest his offending had caused, but had sought to portray himself as a scapegoat and now wished to be deported. A scapegoat? I think not. Deport you? Hell yeah. The judge also said that, well, Kabatu had tried to take his own life. You know what? I'm going to shut up. While on remand in prison, he could not suspend a 12-month sentence as there was no realistic prospect of his being rehabilitated. The Bell Hotel residents' behavior in July led to protesters and counter-protesters taking to the streets in Epping and eventually outside hotels housing asylum seekers across the country. In other news, an online petition was started calling for an immediate general election. This petition now has over 920,000 so far. Any petition that reaches 100,000 signatures is usually considered for debate in Parliament. The government issued a bullshit statement in response, which I won't go into, but I'll leave a link. Okay. The Labour government have been dogged by major issues, including failure to address the ongoing migrant crisis, as well as performing embarrassing U-turns on unpopular financial decrees, such as withdrawing winter fuel payment for pensioners. There are only two ways to get rid of Keir Starmer as Prime Minister, and the first one involves the monarchy. The ruling king or queen of England, you can't even call her the Queen of England, okay? You can't. She's nothing. She's garbage. Is not allowed to interfere in politics or the running of the country. They have a publicly elected government to run the country for them. However, the ruling monarch does have the power to dissolve parliament and request a new parliament or government. So I'm guessing in that scenario, a new public general election would take place. Well, then what the hell is the point of having the royal family if they can't do nothing? Okay. The only other way to get rid of the prime minister is for the members of the parliament to issue a vote of no confidence, which would result in him having absolutely no choice but to resign, and the members of parliament would elect a member of the Labour Party to replace him. It is generally the leader of the opposition who calls for the motion, usually because they feel that the government has mismanaged policy, lost its legitimacy, or has been embroiled in some major scandal. All MPs are able to propose a motion of no confidence, although they will not normally get the parliamentary time for discussion unless they can get support from one or more other opposition parties. Anyway, if another member of the Labour Party is elected as Prime Minister, I'm afraid we will only get another cretin in Starmer's place, and that's the truth. In the case of general election, whereby the public vote for the political party they want in government, the vote will probably go to Nigel Farage and his Reform Party. I thought everybody liked Nigel. No? Huh. Okay. Quite frankly, I don't think he'll be any better as Prime Minister. There is such a thing as be careful what you wish for. They're all liars. And show me, okay, anybody that's watching this, show me a politician, okay, who's not a liar, a cheat, or corrupt, or useless. Show me one, okay? And she said, and not one of these politicians are worth voting, in my opinion. I get it. I get it. You know, I mean, I can't even say when Trump first came on the scene, because he's been on the scene for a very long time, ever since I can remember, ever since I was a kid, you know, because I grew up in Atlantic City, as you guys know. But when he started to become more like in the political arena, if you want to say that, I think that's the only time people actually got involved in politics, and they were happy about being involved in politics. But he's been asked, I think since the early 90s, if he would run for president, and he always said no. Yeah. I think actually the first time he was ever asked if he would run for president was on Oprah. Yeah. So she said, I was chatting with someone recently who informed me that all politicians and world leaders are psychopaths as far as she's concerned. Yeah, they really truly are. You know, it's, I mean, for the love of God, look at what we just went through with Biden. Oh my God. Can you imagine if Camel Toe got in? For the love of God. I mean, holy hell, we would. we would literally, every single one of us would be living on the 7th level of Hades right now. Okay. And that's without a word of a lie. That's not a joke. She said they're only interested in feathering their own nest. Politicians are most definitely a certain breed. And yes, some of them are nuts indeed. So I understand what she's saying. Right. But that's why everybody, or a lot of people, were so gung-ho about voting for Trump. Why? Because he's not a politician. Okay. He is a businessman. And what, it's like, okay, like, when you are running a country, it's the same as running a business. And who needs to run a business? A businessman. So why not have a businessman run a country? He knows what he's doing. They are a numbers person. Okay. And that's exactly what we needed. It's exactly what we needed in order to get shit straight. And that's exactly what happened. Okay. So, but that's just my opinion. And I'm sticking to it. She said, anyway, she said, I've said this to you before and I'll say it again. The things I've been emailing with over the past few months are just one of many reasons why Keir Starmer is the most hated and despised person in Britain right now and has been for months. I agree with you. I mean, I don't even live in the UK and I can't stomach the man. I think he's a moron. Okay. Okay. Look what they just did to Katie Hopkins. For crying out loud, she made fun of herself and they threatened her with arrest. Excuse me? She's a comedian. She made fun of herself. Make that make sense? Seriously. So, moving on. And thanks for the email, Amanda. I love you and I miss you. So, here's something for you, okay? This picture here, okay? Here are 4 Republicans that joined Democrats to protect Ilhan Omar, they are refusing to remove her from committee assignments after she defamed Charlie Kirk following what happened with him, okay? Mike Flood, Jeff Hurd, Corey Mills, Tom McClintock, okay? They're siding with the Democrats, these spineless little shiznits, okay? I mean, what's wrong with you? Okay, she needs to go, okay? You marry your own brother, you're gross, go, okay? Just say. So, onto this, okay? Here's an email from a community member. She said, I'm listening to your video this morning. So sorry to hear about all the butthurt people who can't accept reality. You're not the only one. I deal with it every single day. Yeah, that's why I've literally cut back on my uploading because I have to take care of myself. I have to step away sometimes. And not just that, but Sean and I have been really, really busy. But I have to step back because, it's getting to me. It's getting to me. It really, truly is. Yeah. But anyway, she said Costco is going to need to stock up on big boy pants when shit hits the fan. Not one of my friends is preparing for bad times. I'm like you. I get laughed at. You know what? Let them laugh. Okay? Let them laugh. You want to know why? Because when it does hit the fan and when things really truly do happen, we're the ones that are going to be sitting down to at least a 3-star meal and be able to wipe our tookuses, okay, and clean our homes, okay, and feed our pets, okay, while they're out there scrounging in trash cans, okay, not being able to bathe, okay, and all that, good, fun, happy shiznit, okay. We're the ones that they're going to be begging, saying, oh my gosh, I should have listened to you. And then you're going to be the one to say, I told you so. So until that happens, just sit back and relax. Let them laugh. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are going to be laughing at them. That's it. So she said, keep posting your videos, please. And she said, and as you say, keep safe. Always, my friend. Always. And if we have a hurricane, I just might come up to Pensacola and see you. Love you. So here are 2 videos that were sent in by community members. I will see you guys in the next one, okay? You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping. And as always, fearless and God bless. Ciao.
Did y'all just hear what the leader of the entire world just said? And I'm not talking about Tylenol, but we'll get to that too. It's getting pretty confusing because they're saying contradictory things. And of course, definitely the owner of Tylenol responded. By the way, look at that right there. Stop putting ads on stuff y'all don't own. But before this very strange video, let me preface this video. This is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm just showing you what the leader of the world himself is saying. Oh, and final thing. TikTok, if you so much as even touch or even look at this video wrong, I'm gonna sue you. How are you gonna block what the president says?
And it's so important to me to see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby. Even if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just break it up into, I would say 5, but let's say 4 visits to the doctor instead of 1.
Pretty wild. And he also said this about changing the substance in them.
Or the process of taking out mercury and aluminum. Now, you know what mercury is. You know what aluminum is. Who the hell wants that pumped into a body?
Now we have RFK who notes that you never see really old people with a certain condition. It's always children or young people.
I've never seen a case of full-blown autism, and I mean profound autism. I want to be very careful. Head banging, stimming, toe walking, nonverbal, non-toilet trained. I've never in my life seen a 70-year-old man who looks like that. You're only seeing it in kids. It's an epidemic.
Now to the Tylenol. So he said basically that it may have been allegedly a cause. And they said that it itself is not a cause, but something it does in the body is a cause. And this is what they say. Again, no medical claim, not my words, not anything. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just showing you what they're saying on the news and major headlines. TikTok. Y'all really need to come to Facebook and Instagram.
Carol, please bring this up. A statement from the maker of Tylenol can view. Quote, sound science clearly shows that taking acetaminophen does not cause autism. We strongly disagree with any suggestion otherwise and are deeply concerned with the health risks this poses for expecting mothers.
It's so wild how the world is radically divided between 2 extremes and they all think something separate from each other. Let me know what y'all think.
Vice President J.D. Vance just lit the microphone on fire and then dropped it on their woke asses. Watch this.
And I think that is the most disgusting thing. The very people who keep us safe ought to be honored and protected and praised by Democrats and Republicans alike. It is time to stop the rhetorical assault on law enforcement. Because here's what happens when Democrats like Gavin Newsom did say that these people are part of an authoritarian government. When the left-wing media lies about what they're doing, when they lie about who they're arresting, when they lie about the actual job of law enforcement, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with my immigration policies. You don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies. But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell and you have no place in the political conversation of the United States of America.